Welcome to the Great I.O. Get-Together. On tonight's show, quips and queries about the world of work as I.O. psychology comes alive. Now please welcome our hosts, Richard and Tara.
Thank you so much, Cherry, and welcome everyone to Great I.O. Get-Together number 22, Are You Smarter Than Two SIOP Presidents with Elaine Pulakos. This is my co-host, Tara. Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to subscribe, ring the bell, join Discord, join our email list if you haven't done those things already. Details about all of that available on our website, thegig.online. So all of our regular shows, and this one is no exception, have two halves. In the first half, we have a little fun. Second half, we get a little more serious, all with our guest of the day. So today on the show, we have Dr. Elaine Pulakos, Chief Executive Officer of the legendary I.O. psychology consulting firm PDRI. Dr. Pulakos is fellow of the American Psychological Association, fellow and past president of the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology. Welcome to the show, Elaine.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here today. Looking forward to it.
Well, today's game will be a PSYOP History Trivia Challenge, presidentially themed. Each round, I'm going to be asking each of you a question about PSYOP presidents or presidential history. I will direct each question at one of you. And if you get it right, you'll get a point. And if you get it wrong, then the other person has a chance to steal. So most points wins. Does that make sense? Everybody good with the rules?
I'm very nervous. Yes, let's get started.
Just realized I have to keep score somehow. There we go. Okay, so great. So first question is going to be for Elaine. So we're going to start a little, hopefully a little easier. We'll see how this goes. One, for Elaine, who was President Barron's predecessor?
Who? Oh, Alexis.
Oh.
No?
We skipped a few, yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Other way, yeah.
I don't
All right, Tara, you have the steal here.
I actually know this one. That would be Mo Wang.
It is Mo Wang. One point to Tara.
Oh.
Yeah, that's okay. This one might be the opposite situation. Question for Tara. Who was President Pulakos' predecessor?
I knew that was coming, and yet I still didn't have the foresight to Google it. I have no idea.
But I do.
For the steal.
All right, I can't even come up with a guess.
The person who came before me, right? That would be predecessor.
It would.
That's what I thought. I had to make sure I understood the meaning of the word, just so I didn't get it wrong. It was Kevin.
It was Kevin Murphy.
Kevin Murphy.
Yeah. All right. We are tied up. This is actually it's a fun thing I've noticed is that there's sort of like an open question too as to how engaged you are like after your presidency, because I've heard sort of different models of it. Like it's time to step back is one approach, and then some other folks seem to not do that. I don't know. What was your approach? I'm very curious.
Yeah, no, see, that's fair because I actually am a firm believer that that old person that sticks around too long and just won't go away and hangs on and everybody's like, when are they going to get out of the way? I firmly believe, and I do this with my staff too. It's like you got to get out of people's way in order for them to come into their own and own their roles and do their thing, right? So when I was done being president after my last term, I mean, I love PSYOP, and so it wasn't like I dropped out of PSYOP, didn't want to do anything anymore, but I felt it was really important for me to get out of the way. Tara, I'm just trying to take up time so we don't have to do this quiz anymore. So
Brilliant.
really
Yes.
important.
I have opinions.
Get the heck out of the way, let the people do their thing, and then 10 years later, actually probably more like 20 years later, I got engaged doing some other stuff. But I do think, like, once you're done, get out of the way.
I appreciate that philosophy for a number of reasons. One, if you don't, then power gets concentrated amongst a few people, and nobody else has the opportunity to develop those skills. And then when that core group of people retires or gets tired of it, there's nobody who's trained and ready to step in, which is really a bad way of running an organization. So, I fully intend on keeping that in mind and not being one of those people that just won't leave, because I don't think PSYOP could function that way.
Yeah.
We are all.
I should have gotten my question, by the way, but I'm so nervous about this stupid game, figuring out how to make a fool out of myself, that I actually did know the answer to that. I just said the wrong thing. That happens. How much more time do we have to kill Tara before we can go to the serious part?
I don't know. I don't think Richard's gonna let us get away with this. I think we have.
We actually only have 4 questions. This is not a long quiz.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Question 2. We're going to continue in the same pattern. So, Elaine first. How many women were presidents before you?
2.
It is 2. Very nice. Point to Elaine. Here's the extra fun one for Tara. How many were presidents before you?
Wait, I'm counting.
Mm.
All right, Talia, Eden, Georgia. 8?
Oh no, it is not 8. Elaine, any guess for the steal?
I would say like maybe a dozen, maybe 12. I don't know.
Ooh, it is 12.
No!
No.
I had no friggin' idea. I just knew 8 was wrong, and I really quickly counted off, right? But I have no idea, like, that can't be right? It's not right.
That's it. That is right. That is right.
Okay, can we quit the game now? Good.
I'm sure now that you're ahead by 3, sure.
I mean, there's no need to do it anymore. I won. Yay.
So this is actually a really interesting piece of sort of the changes that PSYOP and the broader kind of world have gone on. So it's from your presidency all the way back to, and then since, it's actually 50% of the PSYOP presidents since you have been women. Although a little lopsided in the last few years, we had 3 in a row. So it's a pretty big change in focus and approach. I don't know. Did you how much did you think about that at the time being
so
third?
What I'm focused on, honestly, is what you just said, which is, and Elaine, blah, 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 all the way back to when you were president, like all the way back. And the problem with what you just said, I just want to test a little, what is it, social awareness test here.
Sure.
All the way back, Elaine, to when you were president. Like, look at me. Do I look that old, Richard? Come on.
No.
I was president when I was 21. So you know what I mean? But yeah, it was, okay, so to be a little bit more serious about it, first of all, I was astonished in a way that I got elected, because I was only the 3rd woman, and at the time I think I was only 38 years old or something like. Oh God, I just did it to myself. I just shot myself right in the foot. But I was pretty young as PSYOP president, so I mean we've had a few ones. We're looking right now at a very young president.
I'm 24.
Yeah, there you go. And I think it's 12. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it was really weird. It was, there were so few women presidents, and I was really astonished that I got elected. I wasn't sure how accessible the PSYOP presidency would be to women. But then, after me, I mean, I think there was nothing about me. It was just a turning point at the time where I think there were more women in the field who were accomplished in general. I think the time had come to, recognize the leadership skills that I think females have, very strongly. And then after me, there were, quite a number of female presidents. And more recently, it's almost like the tables have turned a little bit, because there seem to be more female presidents than male presidents in the last few years, or, evening things out at a minimum, if not maybe a little bit ahead. So I think that's just really an interesting sign of the changing times. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might be underselling yourself a little in that, because the previous president to you was 11 years prior, and the previous to her was 11 years prior to that, and then after you is about every 4-ish years. You were at the beginning of an era, to be honest.
Oh, man. It was me then.
Yeah.
Wow. How great. What a great contribution I made to the field of biopsychology. Fantastic. It wasn't me. It was just so many good women who had come into their own, had come into their own. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go. New question. Again for Elaine. So this is actually.
Isn't this Tara's turn? Hold on.
Always back and forth. We're gonna keep doing it this way. Yeah. So this one. Well, we'll see. So I'm gonna ask you to identify who I'm talking about. All right. This is a specific PSYOP president, possibly one that you know pretty well. We'll find out. All right. So this PSYOP president grew up on a dairy farm in Northwest Iowa, double majored in philosophy and psychology, ended up going to Purdue to pursue a PhD in IO instead of clinical, in part because of a bad experience at serving as a big brother in a home for disturbed children, where he formed a vivid memory of being cursed out by an 8-year-old. You know who that might be?
Well, the first person who came to mind, and I think I'm really going to embarrass myself, would be Neil or Dan, but I thought Neil.
You started Neil. It is Neil Schmidt.
Yeah, did. You know what surprised me? Surprised me about that? Everything rang true, except I didn't know, actually. And it's funny because, Neil, I've probably been as close to as anybody in my whole career, but I never knew the story of the clinical. So that was what was like, geez, is that really Neil? It sounds like it has to be. But wow, that's interesting. It's so funny because what he doesn't know is that I was also on the fence. So interestingly, ironically, between do I go clinical or do I go IO? And my uncle was a clinical psychologist in Buffalo, and he was kind of a big name in Buffalo. He dealt with little kids, and he had a TV show in the morning and blah, blah, blah. So I went to his practice one week to observe, behind the mirrors, like, what do these psychologists do that deal with kids? And I left that experience going, there's really no way I want to do this, because at the end of the day, these people were like, oh my God, I'm so wiped out. And day after day, they're dealing with all these really hard things. And I said to myself, heck no, that's too hard a job. Maybe IO will be easier. IO is like psychology for profit in a business. Hey, that sounds a little bit more fun than, just this draining experience every single day with these little kids. So anyway, probably more than you wanted to know, but it's kind of interesting that Neil and I have that common thread after knowing him for as long as I have, that I never knew. So.
Wait a second. Are you from Buffalo?
No, I am not. Why? Are you?
Indeed. And I have some PSYOP president trivia, which is that there are at least 3 PSYOP presidents that I know of that are from Buffalo, and we grew up within a mile of each other.
Ooh. Who are they?
Can I ask questions? Richard, is that okay? I think, all right, I'm asking questions now. All right.
Ask yourself who they are and then answer.
Yeah, okay. So, Richard, please name all the PSYOP presidents from Buffalo.
I have no guesses. I know one. I don't know the other 2.
The other are Doug Reynolds and Fritz Trasco.
Oh, I didn't know that. Huh.
Okay, Tara, but listen, it's worse than, Buffalo's not bad, but where I come from is kind of bad. It's not bad. Oh God, I can't believe I just said that. It's not bad at all. I love where I grew up, but it's a small place, Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, so not too far away at all then. I think that's the same region.
That's why I told you that, because it's like, Cleveland got big, Buffalo got big, and then Erie was right in the middle. It didn't get so big. That's why I said it. But it's not a bad place at all. It just never ended up blossoming like the other 2 cities. But yes, so I came to Buffalo a lot. So you could kind of consider me in the hood with the rest of y'all from Buffalo.
Close. I agree. I think culturally relevant.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
All right. We got our next, the flip of that question for Tara. Same idea. This PSYOP president grew up in a rural town outside of Chicago, attended Miami University in Ohio before serving 5.5 years on a 4-year commitment to the U.S. Navy because of Vietnam, before attending Berkeley for IO. Then, after graduating, came in second, narrowly losing out on a professorship at Purdue to Dan Ilgen, and instead went to work at PDI. Who is that?
What? That whoever that person is, very interesting. They went to Berkeley. And they were in the
Yep. Are we gonna have to
Navy.
move for the steal? You have a guess?
No.
All right. For the steal then.
Wally.
It is Wally Borman.
Yes! Dang it.
Terry, you're not doing well.
I'm aware of this, yes. Great.
I'm
You
going
know.
to give her half of my points and say it's a tie.
Oh, thank you for the charity.
Charity. This was the dumbest game I ever played in my life, Tara, right? Like, we were nervous for a reason. We need to, like, I don't know. Here, but you know who got 0 points? At least we got some points. Think about it. Some points is a win. 0 points is the loser. So guess who the loser is? There's only
I'm pretty sure Richard has 0 points. That's
Richard's not 0. He's the only loser here. Sorry, Richard. Don't play these games with us. There's 2 against 1 here. It's not.
You're ahead 5-1 right now. That's.
I cheated though, you know. Okay, ChatGPT here helping me out. I don't. But you know, I should have. Why didn't we do that, Tara? That would have been smart.
All right, we're on our last question. Back to Elaine. Which SIOP president proposed beginning the annual conference?
I kind of want to say Irv Goldstein.
Oh, it is!
Oh my God.
6 points.
There's no way that I can hang. This is way above my level of sophistication here.
See, Tara, I go back so far.
So right, as we've heard, yes, so far.
Out that I actually was the chair of the program in Boston, which I think was the 2nd or 3rd SIOP conference. And at the time, I remember there was this great group of people. It was like Irv and Ben Schneider, Shelley Zedek, you know, that cohort that really, you know, was interested in making sure that SIOP didn't get lost at APA, which we were getting lost at APA. So, I mean, I have vivid memories of that, and I just kind of, something told me that of them, I just thought it might be Irv, but it just could have easily been, you know, Ben or Shelley or one of those they were kind of presidents around the same time, and they were just doing this stuff. And that is actually when I started my active engagement in SIOP. So it's very memorable for me. You know, I can't remember obviously today's president or who preceded that president or who preceded the other president, you know. I mean, it happened like 2 months ago, but you know, I can remember 40 years ago. I hope that's not a sign I'm losing my short-term memory, because my long memory, that would be really a bad sign for me.
No, I think there's something about your formative years that just sticks forever. Like I can remember vividly my first conference and everything that happened related to that, even though I can't remember anything in between. So I get it.
Yeah. All right. Our final question, back to Tara. Which SIOP president was president during the first Leading Edge Consortium?
Oh, was it Lietta?
It was Lietta.
Yes.
Lietta Hugh. There we go.
I finally got one.
Oh, you got one.
So yeah, those are all the questions. So final score 6-2. Elaine clearly the winner here.
Clearly, but I redeemed myself at the end. I would like that to go on the record.
I think Sarah did just fine. My questions were easier than hers anyway.
Yeah, that too.
I agree.
Well, this theme of kind of you know, how the origins of a lot of things that I think almost don't question today. Like the annual conference is such a major part of the everyday existence, I think, of a lot of IOs now, and to think there was a point when it didn't exist is kind of odd, actually, for folks. And so I'm very excited when we get to the interview portion after the break here to kind of talk about how you've seen all that happen and your role in it and all sorts of fun other details. So looking forward to that. And we will come back then in 5 minutes. And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. Here for our second half, our interview with Elaine. So let me start by just saying, by opening with kind of your PDRI related history. Of course, the CEO, very, very impressive title. And PDRI itself has a very long history in IO psychology, and you yourself started there some time ago. I won't give a specific date. I was wondering if you could actually give a little bit of an overview, kind of the relationship as you see it between PDRI and IO psychology, and maybe a little bit about how you've participated in that or seen it, and what the role of PDRI has been in your career.
Yeah, it's really funny how it all started, because when I was in grad school, I identified PDRI as the place that I wanted to go work. And the reason why is because they were doing this great research, and people like Wally Borman, Lietta, Marv, they were publishing, but they had these massive data sets, and they were publishing articles like on really, I thought, cool things from practice that academics often didn't have access to the kind of data that PDRI did, because they were doing these massive studies, especially with the military at the time. So I'm looking at this, I'm thinking they're practitioners who have great data sets and can publish. This is the only place in the world that is going to be a good fit for me. So I set out to get myself a job there. So I sent Wally Borman this article that I wrote, and I asked him to review it, which he did kindly. He gave me feedback on it. And then we went to APA, and my sole mission was to meet him. So I basically stalked him, everywhere he might be, and I finally found myself at a cocktail party with him. And mind you, I'm 23 years old or something like this, 24, I don't know, whatever it was. And so I met him. I said, okay, I came here to meet you, and I'm really excited to meet you. And the reason I wanted to meet you is I'd like a job at PDRI, because it's the only place in the world that's a good fit for me. Like, what an idiot, right? Like, who would be this way, and think that this is a way to get a job? So eventually, and then I kept in touch with him. I'd send him papers, and I'd be like, you have a job at PDRI or whatever for me yet? And finally, I think he had me come to Minnesota, and I did an interview to be a postdoctoral research fellow. And they paid me like so little money that my dad had to basically support me. Thankfully, he was really a sweet dad, and he did that. He gave me extra money so I could go to my first job, but it wasn't a job. I was postdoctoral research fellow. I did that for a year, and then PDRI gave me a real job. And I stayed in that job for 2 years in Minnesota, and that's kind of how it all started. But I honestly think the way I got my job was just to be such a nag and a PETA that it's finally like, oh my God, just give her a job here. They put me on a different floor. Like, PDRI was on the 21st floor. I was down on the 13th floor with a couple other interns who probably were equally a PETA and got themselves a job the same way I did. And there we sat for a year until we got brought up to the real company. But that's the honest to God truth story. So don't apply for jobs, people. It's a waste of your time. Don't go to job interviews, people. It's a waste of your time. Just go find the person you want to work for, meet him at a conference, and ask him for a job. That's my advice to you.
Wow. So I don't. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's. I don't know how that would work out these days.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important story about the value of persistence and knowing what you want and setting goals. And I think many people could benefit from that kind of encouragement. So I fully like that story. I've never done that, but I would totally do it if I ever knew that much about what I wanted to do. I would definitely do that.
I'll tell you something. I had a guy show up who was at the University of Maryland, not in IO. He had worked in some, I think, mental institution or something, but I don't know, somehow I got connected up with him, probably Ben or Irv or some connect. He shows up in my office. He's kind of a mess. He's got his backpack. He pulls out all these articles I had written. He starts saying, what I really liked about this article was blah, blah, blah. And he kind of got it all wrong. but I appreciated the initiative and the enthusiasm. So you know what, I hired him. He was one of our best workers, and he ended up going to Michigan State for graduate school. So he went to a very good grad school, became an IO psychologist, and has had a pretty good career. I think he would tell you that just from this happening. So I know that my methods are a bit unconventional, but I do have to tell you that I've learned in my life that don't wait for people to kind of come up and tap you on the shoulder. Raise your hand and volunteer. And you know, don't expect, like, I didn't necessarily think I would get a job at PDRI, but I really thought it was the perfect place for me to go because of what they stood for, and there was no other organization like this. And I told them that, and I felt it sincerely. You know, I was very passionate about it. So if there is a situation where you think you do want to go someplace or somebody you want to work with, Neil Schmidt, the same thing. Dan Ilgen, the same thing. They didn't come tap me on the shoulder and say, oh, Elaine, you're such a great graduate student. We really want to work with you. I had to go beg them. And, you know, as a result of doing that and raising my hand and working hard, guess what? I got I think a lot of my whole career and my success is frankly because I've raised my hand and volunteered or asked to do something. I asked to be on the SIOP program chair, and then I expressed my interest to be the chair of the program. I asked to be on the committee, and then I expressed my interest in being the program chair, and that's how I got to chair the conference. You know, it wasn't, now more people ask me, you know, as you get older, but when you're first starting out, I actually think this is not a bad strategy, guys, seriously. I mean, I can make jokes of it, and it's a funny story, but I don't think it's a bad strategy.
You have to advocate for yourself before anyone else can advocate for you. You have to let people know what you can do and what you want. So I agree.
Yeah. It's the you can't make the shots you don't take kind of adage. So things have changed a lot, though. So in that era, PDRI was like one of a relatively small set of like the place to work. And I mean, I call it like the legendary PDRI for that reason. Like it looms large in the history of IO, and you know.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, Project A was a big part of what PDRI was doing, and that is also, you know, major part of the history of the field. So I don't know. How have you seen the kind of evolution of the organization, of PDRI and IO in general over the years? Like, is PDRI now the PDRI that you were, you know, idolizing in that time period, or how'd that change?
You know, it's funny because PDRI on one hand has changed a lot. And, you know, in a way, I think it's become a joke, and, you know, people laugh about it because we've been acquired 8 times.
Oh.
We've had 8 different owners, right? So if you don't think that we take a lot of, you know, it's like, well, what brand's on your coffee cup today, Elaine? And we have actually like 8 of them lined up that we make fun of it ourselves. It's kind of like, well, who's going to own us today? Because we were owned by PDI, and then Predix, and then Provisor, and then SHL, and then CEB, and then Gartner, and then SHL again, and Pearson just bought us. I'm not kidding. So PDRI like has gone through so much change because with every acquisition, there's been kind of okay, you can work in the private sector, because we were always kind of half private sector, half government. And then the next one's like, no, we don't want you in the private sector at all. We want you to be only government. And the next one's like, well, Elaine, we want you to come be our sort of global head of product. And then, well, Elaine, we want you back just in PDRI only. So like, there's been a lot of toing and froing. And I mean, I got to tell you, a lot of change that PDRI has absorbed over the years. We've transformed the business from all professional services to now most of our revenue actually comes from our assessment platform. And, you know, we deliver all kinds of assessments. We do all of the testing for the government and some private sector clients. But we have, most of our business is now scalable, repeatable, IT based. But of course, there's IO content that we're delivering. So the nature of the business has switched from professional services to more product and license. However, with all of that change, I have to tell you that the basic values that PDRI always embraced and were important about, it's a place where people can come and pursue their passions. It's a place where we trust people to get their work done, and we hire really good people. They are committed to doing quality IO psychology work. There is an appreciation for doing research and publishing. There is importance placed on contributing to PSYOP and playing an active role. And we have, if you look on committees and stuff, Tracy Cantorwitz, Gary Carter, just to name a few, and then lots of other people who get involved in committee work and whatnot at PSYOP. So all of those basic values that started with, Mark Dennett, Leetta, and Wally, who were the three really original founders of PDRI, the values continue. And PDRI as an organization is not all that different in its spirit and its culture than it was, when I joined it way back then, Richard, so long ago. So it's kind of odd, right? Like, it's really an odd duck in that way. And here's the other thing, interesting, through 8 owners, guess what our name still is? Think about it. It still is PDRI. So everyone has found value in the brand of, everybody who's owned us has found value in retaining the brand of PDRI. Every other company they got was renamed, but not PDRI. So I don't know, draw your own conclusion about that.
Well, something I appreciate about PDRI is that it seems like the perfect exemplar of the scientist practitioner model. And very few people manage to get that balance right, where they are, all science or all practice. And it's just really exciting for me to see, like you said, people are publishing, they're sharing their science, they're contributing to the field. And, they're running a business and a profitable business, and it's possible to do both. I think that is an important message for people.
Yeah, and that's it. It was that very thing that attracted me to PDRI, the practice people that, are publishing. Now I'll say we don't publish as much as in the day of Wally, Marv, Leetta, but still, to the extent people can, it's still an important value for us. And we do try to keep, at least a few things coming out a year. And even, I guess I've become more interested in getting our stuff more out in the popular press, to be honest, because one of the things I've personally always felt is that IO psychology doesn't have enough of a platform outside of IO psychology. Like, we're not known enough, our country, people are confused by what we do. And so whilst I had in the first part of my career, I was very interested in doing things that were academically solid. In the latter part of my career, I'm much more interested in, publishing in Harvard Business Review or writing books that I hope, HR professionals will read, because I want to see IO have a bigger platform and a better understood platform, out there in the world than I think it does. But that's something that for me, I felt for many years, gosh, I wish we could just do better at this. And I still feel that way, so I keep trying in my own little way.
Well, you're certainly quite prolific as an editor and writer. I just to name a few works: the changing nature of performance, implementing organizational interventions, performance management, transforming performance management to drive performance. Wiley Blackwell Handbook of Psychology, Recruitment, Selection, Employee Retention, Performance Management, Transformation. Just so many works over a long period of time. There is a bit of not that long, sorry. There is a bit of a theme.
Right.
of performance management in there.
Yeah.
And also, I've seen you've had a couple of Harvard Business Reviews lately, which I think might speak to your popular press kind of angle. So I just love to hear kind of how you've navigated that. Like, how'd you land on performance management as a topic you like to talk about a lot? And how do you see like kind of where you're going from here in terms of like popular press engagement?
So, I think performance management found me. I don't
Mm.
know if I found it. It might have found me. I mean, look, I was working with Wally Borman, and he was doing a bunch of Raider training stuff. And when I did my master's thesis and dissertation on Raider training stuff back when we thought we could, train Raiders to give accurate ratings, and it wasn't any more complicated than that. Um, So I started there, and I guess going to PDRI and working with Wally had a big influence on continuing to do research in performance management. But then we here in the government. Okay, so I took a hiatus from PDRI, but then I came back. I opened our office here in DC. So that's kind of how that story goes. But the government was going through this congressionally mandated pay for performance reform. They wanted to implement pay for performance in the government, which, quite frankly, talk about really dumb ideas. Okay, that was one of the dumber ones, I think. Like, we can talk about why, but maybe it's better to just leave it at that. So because of all the work that PDRI had done in performance management and blah, 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 we won a lot of contracts to support, implementing performance management. So kind of that's why I say performance management kind of found me, because now we're doing major PM reform in all these agencies, and it's spilled over to do some work in the private sector as well. And so we implemented like the perfect performance management system, and it didn't work. I mean, we did everything right, rating scales, rater training, blah, blah, blah. Perfect, all the things you're supposed to do, make it legally defensible. Oh, it was, still performance management wasn't happening well. So then I got curious, like, what did we do wrong? Let's try again. So we tried again and it didn't work. And like we tried again and it didn't work. Then we started changing things to try to make it work better. And so I went through this whole career of, well, I think we're almost there. We just got to try a couple more things a little differently, and we'll get performance management to work. 2, performance management is profoundly broken and it can't work. It's really about the people and about the conversations and about people willing to have productive conversations in real time. And no formal system, I'm on a soapbox about this, no formal system is going to get you there. The people have to get there to have good performance management. So I went from, okay, we can make it work, I love it, we can put it in a system, to there's nothing we can do, we just have to get the people to understand what good performance management really means. So I went through this whole, like, I don't know what it is, evolution with performance management, and then decided I don't ever want to do performance management research again. I am done. I've contributed everything I possibly can. I wrote a few books about it, and what was really funny is one book was published that talked about how to develop the perfect formal system, and a year later, I realized we're doing it all wrong. So then I had to write another book, like that came out a year later after I wrote the first book, saying this is the definitive answer for the formal system that will work, saying, you know what, I think we had it all wrong. Now, what we really need is more informal performance management and understanding about what that looks like for both managers and employees. That was embarrassing, that was really embarrassing. And actually, the way I came to that realization was when I won SIOP's Distinguished Scientific Contribution Award. And I was doing my speech, I was like, well, what can I say I've actually accomplished? And I thought about all this performance appraisal work that had been a failure. So I'm like, well, I can't say that was an accomplishment because everybody will just laugh at me. So what my Distinguished Scientific Contribution Award speech ended up being, I actually sat back and thought, why hasn't it worked? And that's when I came up with this insight. It's because a formal system can't do it. And so I actually said, it's ironic I get this award because I've been a failure my whole career. I've never gotten it right, but I have had some new insights, and here's where I think we need to go. It was well received, and then at that point forward, I just switched gears about what I think good performance management looks like, not all the stuff we have been doing. So that's kind of a long answer, sorry, but there was this whole kind of, I don't know, metamorphosis or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're embodying science practice in a way that especially a lot of grad students don't really get. I think the impression that folks come away from with grad school a lot of times is like, there's a correct way to do this. I just read the literature, I do the thing. But the approach of, I call it in my classes engineering. You're trying to engineer a solution to a problem. That kind of like a problem-focused science, problem-driven science, it sounds like what you're doing. And that I wouldn't consider that a failure at all. Like, I think that's what we should be doing pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think only a fool would refuse to change their mind in the face of evidence that suggests they need to change, right? And I can think of a lot of people who will just continue to do the wrong thing because that's what they're known for, or that's what their brand is. And that's not good for science or practice.
Yeah. It was kind of funny though, because that point of just saying, gosh, I think it was just a real interesting, when I sat back and thought about it for this talk, is where I got the insight about, I think we're doing it all wrong. And I wonder, if I hadn't had to give the speech and hadn't took the time to really reflect on it, I think I would have come to the insight anyway eventually, but it was like this aha moment. It was personally just really interesting for me because I'm like, oops, and I just wrote a book saying something else. That's had time to say the least. But
good way to sell twice as many books.
Yeah. No, because you don't ever sell many books. You sell about $40 worth of books. I think, it's at least my books. There are people who make tons of money on books, I suspect. But most people I talk to say, yeah, we just use the book as a platform. You don't really make money. But most of the books I wrote were for SIOP anyway. So sorry, SIOP. I really had better intentions to make some money off of me, but I bet you didn't. Oh my goodness.
So as we roll toward the end here, I have one more question. It kind of follows up on things we were talking about in the during the game, which is really about how SIOP itself, as well as IO as a broader field, and how SIOP has kind of interacted with it, how it's changed over the years. So I see you're still active. You gave 2 presentations in Boston. How have you seen the organization and again relatedly kind of the whole field through the lens of SIOP change over the years? I mean, is this where you thought we'd be at this point, or have things gone kind of a different direction?
So first of all, let me say I love SIOP. I do. It has been such an immensely important community, and it has provided me with the opportunities and platform that I have not needed, but that I have appreciated and needed in order to build my career. So I can't say enough about the relationships, the camaraderie that you can find within SIOP, and the opportunities to have leadership roles, to contribute, to become a better scientist, practitioner, or whatever you are. I think, of course, SIOP has gone through a lot of changes. It was very small. I mean, I remember the first conference we had, you knew everybody there. Now we're 5,000 people in Boston. I'll just come back to, it's changed in so many ways. But I think there again, some of the core values still remain about the community. Of course, as groups get bigger and bigger, it becomes harder to maintain your culture and core values, of course. But I still think the fundamental ones, the things that I loved about SIOP, are largely still there. I will say what I said before, I want SIOP to have a broader platform. I want people to understand IO psychology better. I think, this has been a topic since I was president, frankly, so it's not an easy nut to crack. But I do want the world to understand a little bit more about what IO psychology is, because, you still run into people. What do you do? How are you trained? Well, I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, or what? I just say, management consultant, because what else?
Yeah.
So, that is my hope for SIOP, that at some point it gets the platform and the voice that it deserves. That would be great. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. We did have some, I just noticed, online live chatters. Martha Hennon wrote, acquired many times, yet PDRI still provides excellent top-notch research and quality. And a follow-up question, what are you interested in now, if not performance management?
Agility. That's the new thing. We did a study. We looked at 300 organizations globally. And I did this work with Ben Schneider, who I love dearly. And he dates back to my Michigan State days too. The other person in my career who has been incredibly influential and who I'm grateful for, that, you know, he is definitely on the list for sure. So Ben and I, he did some organizational level research to try to ferret out what makes companies and teams agile. And we found some really interesting findings. Those are the Harvard Business Review articles. So, and one thing I'll just tell you, I'll just whet your appetite. One of the most important things for agility is stability. It's paradoxical, but you cannot be agile unless you're stable first. And there are leadership practices, 7 of them, although I think we whittled them down to 5 or 6, that are essential to create stable situations in organizations. We also found that when you overdo teamwork, you work against agility. So a second practice is right-sizing teamwork so that you don't have too many people, too many meetings, because that just creates chaos. And the third is to have self-correcting teams. So that's another very important thing in order to have agile teams and agile organizations. So it's not like agile in the IT sense. It's actually leadership practices that create agility. And what we also found is agile organizations actually are more profitable. So we made the link to actual financial outcomes. So I think this to me was a wonderful research study done at the organizational level that allowed us to find things that I don't think we ever would have found studying just one organization. Great insights, and I'm super excited about pursuing this line of research now in lieu of performance management, although self-correcting teams admittedly is performance management as well. So I can't get away from it.
That is wonderful. I will also point out for viewers just that I mean, again, you're like the living embodiment of science practice, because you're talking about research while talking about product lines, and it's just just an illustration of how that's just a normal line to cross back and forth between. Like that is what I think IO psychology is and should be, and it's great to see it happening, and in such an illustrious career as well. Well, wonderful. So thank you so much for coming. We are out of time, alas, but this has really been great.
I loved it. It was so fun being with you, Richard. We're getting you back for the quiz still, even though Tara and I will be back with you soon. But thanks, you guys. I really enjoyed this. I hope it was fun for everybody, and I hope it met your expectations.
It was great.
It was fantastic to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, that is it for gig number 22. Remember to subscribe, ring the bell, join Discord, join our email list, all of that, details on thegig.online. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time for another great IO Get Together. Bye.
Oh, the times were hard and the wages low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. I guess it's time for us to go. And it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow. And it's time for us to leave her.
That's it for another gig. To stay in touch, subscribe on YouTube, check out our website at thegig.online, join our LinkedIn group, sign up for our email notification list, and join our Discord. So many ways to connect. Thanks for joining us, and see you next time for another great IO Get Together.